It's 2.6. We're going to split it into 2 days. So the first day, this is the first day. So we want to find f plus g of 1. So you could do this two different ways. One way is you can find f of 1 and then add to that g of 1. Okay. So to find f of 1, you take 1 and plug it in here. 1 squared is 1, plus 1 is 2. G function, g of 1, 3 times 1 is 3, plus 5 is 8. You add them together, you got answer of 10. Okay. The other way of doing it is to actually add these two functions together. So if I add these two things together, add my like terms together, it'd be x squared plus 3x, and then I can add the 1 and that makes 6. Okay, and then I can plug in the 1. So 1 squared is 1, 3 times 1 is 3, so 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 6 makes 10. Okay, I think this way is probably easier for people. So f minus g of x, so f of negative 3, we're going to subtract the g of negative 3 then. F of negative 3, we plug it in. Negative 3 squared is 9, plus 1 is 10. G of negative 3, negative 9 plus 5 is negative 4. And subtract those, you get answer of 14. Okay, this is multiply f times g of x. So we can find f of 5 times g of 5. So f of 5 squared is 25, plus 1 is 26. And we're multiplying that by g of 5. 5 times 3 is 15, plus 5 is 20. Multiply those together, you get 520. Okay, tomorrow we're going to talk about f of g of x. Okay, little open circle, don't get that confused with multiply. Here, this would be f of 0 divided by g of 0. So f of 0 be 0 squared is 0, plus 1 is 1. G of 0, 3 times 0 is 0, plus 5 is 5. So you get 1/5. Okay. This section here, we're looking to just add the two functions together. We're going to leave it in terms of x. So we're going to leave the x's in there. So we're just taking that 8x minus 9. And we're going to add to that my g of x function, which is this. So we're just going to add those together. And when you add, you look for like terms. So like terms, I could add the 8x and the 2x. That square root cannot be added to any of these others, and negative 9 plus 4 would be negative 5. Here we're going to subtract them. So we're taking the f function, subtracting the g function. Okay, so a lot of teachers ask you to distribute this negative through so you don't forget anything. So it'll be the same as negative 2x plus the square root of x minus 4. So then add like terms together, it'd be 6x plus the square root of x minus 13. Okay. Multiplying these together, we would take 8x minus 9, and we multiply it by 2x minus the square root of x plus 4. Okay. This one's going to take a little bit of work, but we can multiply, distribute through. That times that is 16x squared minus 8x square root of x plus 32x minus 18x plus, okay, multiply this together, be plus 9 square root of x, and then lastly negative 36. Okay, so if you look for like terms you can put together there, we have 16x squared, and these are not like, well, you could, well, we'll leave them apart. So negative 9 square root of x minus 8x square root of x, these you can combine together. 32 minus 18 is what, 14? And minus 36. Usually that's not going to be that complicated to multiply together though. And dividing them, you would just take that 8x minus 9 and divide it by this 2x minus the square root of x plus 4, which we're not going to do anything with now. Okay? So you're just adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, basically your polynomials like you did back in Algebra 1. Okay, this one here, I will tell you, I didn't label this before, this is your f of x function, and this here is your g of x function. So if we want to know f plus g of 4, okay, so we want to know of 4, my f function at 4 is right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay. So f of 4 is a 9. And g of 4, it looks like it's a 2. So if I add those two together, I get 11. Okay. Next one, of negative 2. So in this one here, this one's kind of weird because f of negative 2, I could find that number, but g of negative 2 is not defined down here. Okay, so we would just say this is undefined. Can't find that one. F of 1 and g of 1, f of 1, looks like it's up here at around 3. And g of 1 looks like it's at 1. So multiply this together, you get 3. F of 0 and g of 0, f of 0 looks like it's at 1. And g of 0 is at 0. We can't divide by 0, so that is an undefined number. Okay? Now, to make that a little bit easier, I gave the chart here. So these are different numbers and different outputs for the f and the g for that graph. Okay? So if you look at f of 4, if my x is a 4, my f function is a 9, which we had there from the graph. And my g of 4, so my g of 4 would be 2, and you can add them together to get your 11. Okay? So the same sort of idea here with this. I think it's easier in in table form than it is in graph form, but just wanted to show both of those to you. Okay. Number 5, let's find f, same as over here, f plus g of 4. You can pause the video and try and find that. Okay, f of 4 be 8 plus 1 makes 9. And g of 4, square root of 4 is 2. Gives you that. Basically, these are those equations. So all these answers are going to get you the same answer here, just in different forms. Looking at it as a graph, looking at it as a table, and looking at them as equations. These equations are these graphs. Okay, so we'll do one more here. Let's do f minus g of negative 2. Okay, so of negative 2, my f function was negative 3. My g function was undefined. Okay, you can also think of it the same thing here. My f function, negative 2 would be negative 4 plus 1 would be negative 3, which is what we had. And the square root of a negative 2 is undefined. Okay, so we get the same response both ways. The other thing we're going to talk about is something called the difference quotient. This is used in calculus, and we're going to get used to using this here a little bit. So this is finding the derivative, okay, which means basically finding a slope of a tangent line at a point. So remember what secants and tangents are, maybe. A secant, basically, say we have this point, okay, just some random point, we'll call it x, okay, dx. Its output would be f of x. Okay, so we have this point, x and f of x, x and y. If we take this other random point out here, and we add a certain number to this x, we have x plus h, let's say. Okay, so I'm adding on h distance here. And then the output of this would be whatever the x, when I plug that x into that equation, right? So it would be f of x plus h. Okay. Now, to find slope, if you remember, slope is the y minus the y over the x minus the x. Okay, back in Algebra 1, the y minus y over x minus x. So if we do the y minus the y over the x minus the x. Okay, y minus the y over the x minus the x. Now, I can simplify that just a little bit. This is f of x plus h minus f of x divided by, okay, so here I have x and minus x, which would cancel each other out, so I'm left with just h. Okay, so that's how that is what we use to find the difference quotient. Okay, so let's do an example of it. So if I have this function right here, I want to find the difference quotient, which is this, and then simplify it. Okay, so how do I find f of x plus h? Well, I just take x plus h and plug it in for those x's, right? So I have 2 and x plus h squared minus 3 times x plus h. Okay, so that's f of x plus h there, right? Okay, so this is the x plus h. I want to subtract the f of x now, so minus my f of x function. Okay, and on the bottom, I just have h. Okay, so that's how you set it up. F of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. Okay, now comes the hard part to simplify this all out. So, if you remember how to multiply these together, but x plus h times x plus h, you got to multiply this together, would be x squared plus hx plus hx plus h squared. Okay, combine those like terms together, you have 2 xh's right there. Okay, so we have 2 and then x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. And then you can distribute this negative 3x minus 3h. Distribute that through, be negative 2x squared plus 3x. Okay, all divided by h. At any time, pause it and think about what's happening. Okay. Next, I can distribute this 2 through, so it'd be 2x squared plus 4xh plus 2h squared, and then the rest of that. Okay. Now let's combine some like terms together. So notice I have 2x squared and negative 2x squared cancels out. I have negative 3x and positive 3x that cancels out. And what I'm left with is 4xh plus 2h squareds minus 3h all divided by h. Now notice all these have h in it, so I can divide this h out of all of them. So if I divide the h out, I have 4x plus 2h minus 3. And that is called our difference quotient. Okay, let's try another one. You pause it and try this by yourself and see what you can do. And if you need help or check your answers, then unpause it. Okay, f of x plus h would be 5x plus h minus 6 minus the f of x, which is 5x minus 6, all divided by h. Okay, distribute through. 5x plus 5h minus 6 minus 5x plus 6 over h. Negative 5x and positive 5x cancel. Negative 6, positive 6 cancel. 5h over h, which simplifies to be 5. Okay, so those are notes 2.6, the first half. We'll get to the second half in a little bit.